Wow.
Is this thing on?
Yep. Okay.
Yep, it works.
Wow. Here's our intro. Hey. Oh, wow. Huh. Okay. Yeah. Working.
Poopatongs
All right,
walk
ready?
like this.
Have you ever had the experience where somebody comes off as really insensitive because they can't understand your particular situation?
All the time.
So an example would be like you're going through school, you have a job as well, you're super busy, you're swamped, and you're like, I only have 30 minutes to exercise 2 times a week, and then some trainer or somebody will tell you, no excuses, because you could always wake up at 4 a.m. to work out. Or if you're telling someone, I'm really having a hard time and struggling to lose weight, and they just say, oh, just eat less
Calories
and
in,
exercise
calories out.
more. Like, it's not that hard.
Yeah. I've seen that a lot, especially with these trainers that think they're like hot shots or like they're running some sort of military camp, that everybody has to be like, oh, beast mode all the time. When in reality, that's just not how life is. And I think one of the most important parts of being a trainer is understanding that and being able to manage because exercise is stress, and you don't want to over-stress somebody more than they're already stressed. It's positive stress, but it's still a form of stress. So I think one of the most important parts of being a trainer is understanding what someone's going through and then combining that with your knowledge and how can we meet in the middle, not you're going to listen to me no matter what I say, no matter what like your life is going, because you don't really know what somebody's day looks like.
And I think what you're implying there too is that everybody's different, and we all respond to different styles, different tones. So yeah, you might be that militant person, the no excuses, and there's a time and place for that, and sometimes people get motivated by that, but you could legitimately be in a situation where you're struggling and some simple binary advice is not going to help you. So let me tell you a story of what happened to me the other day. I am going through X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it, and I see this tweet and I'm like, it hit me because it said, it's something along the lines of like parents shouldn't take their like snotty kids to grocery stores, just like leave them home basically, implying that the guy probably, it was a young guy, maybe in his 20s, and he implying that he probably had a kid that was having a tantrum at a grocery store, and of course he didn't want to deal with it because, who wants to deal with a kid having a tantrum? As a parent of a small child, it like outraged me a little bit. I was like, what do you mean don't take my kid to a grocery store? Yeah, it was just insensitive. It's like, you obviously don't have kids. I'm talking to this guy. You obviously don't have kids and have no idea what it's like to have a small child, and you're telling somebody, what if it's a single mom? What if it's somebody that doesn't really have childcare? It's like, oh, just don't take your kid to the grocery store because it bothers me, Even though, imagine if you're feeling irritated, imagine how she must be feeling. So anyway, it was just a whole lot of like, wow, that was a very insensitive thing to say, which I know is what does well on Twitter. But still, it's an example of somebody not understanding your specific situation and saying something that's like, you didn't really give it much thought before you said something like that. No. And that's very similar to somebody saying, oh, I'm struggling to lose weight or whatever. And then somebody saying, oh, just wake up at 4 a.m. It's like, really, just wake up at 4 a.m.? Yeah. What if I have 2 jobs? What if I have kids and all these responsibilities? It's not that simple, it just comes off as completely insensitive.
Yeah, I don't think you're doing anybody any favors saying things like that. Like, I've seen some kids misbehaving at a grocery store, but like, does it really affect you that much? So you have to blatantly go out and say ban them forever? Like, what the hell's that guy?
Well, yeah, it's obviously not doing anybody any favors, but it's just a selfish comment to make as like, oh, this bothers me, so maybe we should just ban it or whatever. And obviously he wasn't being literal about it, but it's still like a hurtful thing to say.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to kind of guide this conversation, because that's just one of many examples of how somebody could feel like, wow, this person just doesn't understand my specific situation and therefore cannot sympathize or empathize with me.
Yeah, they tend to be in that like tunnel vision that everything is like based on what they see and how their life is, and they have no idea what somebody might be going through that doesn't make it as easy as just work out more.
So that's a perfect segue to one of the main points of today's conversation, which is that one of the unfortunate truths about humans is that it's very hard for us to understand somebody else's situation unless we've personally gone through it. Yes, some people are more empathetic than others, but the reality is like, it's very easy to like other people. Like, oh yeah, whatever. Like, perfect example is kids. People that have no kids, it's very easy to say, my kid would never throw a tantrum. Okay, buddy.
He wouldn't.
Good luck with that. Somebody who's always been skinny doesn't understand the struggle that an overweight person who was always overweight feels. Like you can kind of understand the struggles, but you don't really actually know.
Yeah, you've never been there. You've never been in the trenches.
And it's unfortunate because you're not going to experience every little thing that somebody else is going to experience, but that, I would say that's just like a universal thing, is not being able to really understand unless you've gone through something.
Why?
You know what they say? If you put your ear on an Ebba's belly, you can hear the ocean.
Have you seen that meme of where it's like it shows like 20-year-old coach telling busy mother of 3, and like, you know, you got to work out 6 days a week because no excuses.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's such a funny thing for anyone who's a little bit older and has a lot of responsibilities, because it's like, yeah, you know, that it's just like the morning routine thing. You know, these people are telling you to morning routine, wake up, 20 minutes of gratitude, then jump in the ice plunge, and then
journal,
meditate for 20 minutes,
breakfast.
then journal. And it's like, oh, you're 3 hours into your morning.
Brother, I'm
It's
at
like,
work.
Dude, you gotta
work, brother.
get up and go.
Yeah.
What are you talking
I have
about?
clients at 7 a.m., brother. I gotta ride.
But
I gotta wake
again,
up at
it's
4.
exactly. It's that issue of, you know, my life is like this because I'm 20 and I don't really have a lot of responsibility. So I can't understand why other people can't do this. And it's because you haven't lived enough to have those experiences, or maybe you haven't worked with enough people that have a different lifestyle or different experiences, different responsibilities than you, and you really can't understand why other people are struggling. And so, like, why are we even talking about this? What does this have to do with fitness or coaching or personal training? Well, one of the things is a lot of listeners and stuff, when they're looking for a coach, you want to look for a coach that does have experiences with your specific situation. Like, it would be a bad idea to be that mother of 3 and then hire a 19-year-old coach that doesn't have experience with other moms or other people with, you know, your specific circumstances. Nothing against young people, but it's just one example.
No, and I think that's something, something against young people, because that's something that comes with experience over time. Is like, the more you work with different populations and people have different struggles, that helps you to become a better trainer, helps you empathize more. Like, okay, I've dealt with pregnant women, so I know that some weeks are better than others. I've worked with people with kids. I know they get sick a lot, so maybe you're not sleeping too well. Like, the more you work with different populations of people and people with different struggles, that opens your eyes and helps you see, like, okay, maybe it's not all black and white. Like, maybe not everybody can work out 5 times a week and have a perfect meal plan. Like, it's not that easy. And the more people you work with, the easier that becomes for you to notice, I think.
Yeah, in a way, it makes you more open-minded, because I think when we're young, we're a little bit more like, you know, this is the way because I learned it and I read it in a book, or my professor told me.
Joe Rogan told me.
Oh, I got to bring Joe into this. And as you start working with all these different people, your world starts to open up. You're like, oh wow, you know, I mean, I know it happened to me. I used to be a lot more like binary and this is and that and hard work and dedication. And then it's like, oh wow. Now as I've gotten older and as I've gotten more experience as a trainer, I'm way more empathetic to other people's situations. Like, so much that even sometimes people are like, wow, I'm surprised that you as a trainer, you have that mentality, because I would expect you to be like Mr., you know, rigid, but it's the opposite. You really start to sympathize with people and be like, oh wow, in your situation, I can legitimately say that you do have certain excuses, or you have circumstances where maybe you can't, you know, get to the gym as much or work out as much, or you're very, very stressed, or you're just going through something emotionally that's hard, and you just have to adapt as a coach to those situations.
And I think that's the mark of a good coach, is helping your clients find that balance. Because anybody can tell you, oh, eat this, not that, and have these calories, not this. But a good coach can tell you, like, hey, you're going through this. I know it's not always easy. You might be a little depressed. I don't want you to go through this. Also, you're going through this life struggle now. Now you're going to take away, like, your comfort food too. Like, no, let's find something that we can do, that we can balance your exercise, we can balance your food, so that you're happy. You get to have your cake and eat it too. I don't know if that fits there. But you can do both. Like, a good coach will help you find both, will help you find balance in between, not just be like, no, work out, like, do exactly as I'm telling you. So I think that comes with experience. Although you said some people are naturally more empathetic than others. And
unfortunately with social media, as you know, like, the more polarizing views get the most engagement. So a lot of times that, like, the opposite of what we're talking about, those are the ones that grow a huge following, because they're telling you, like, no excuse, like, the way to lose weight or get fit or whatever is to eat raw liver and bull testicles, you know, like, that's the way because it's ancestral and it's primal, you know.
Yeah,
I'm picking on anyone in specific, you know. There's no one telling you to
here,
do
eat this cup of butter.
And the cool thing about working with like a diverse set of populations, you're just working for a long time with a lot of different people, is you don't necessarily have to have personally experienced something, right? Like back to the kids thing, because it just seems to be a theme. You don't have to have kids to understand what somebody with kids is going through, but if you've trained enough people with kids, you start to see those patterns and you start to realize, like, once I get my 30th parent client, I'll be like, no, I know what it's like. I know that you probably have after school activities and you're probably not sleeping well, and you have all these experiences that are not a personal experience, but you've dealt with it before.
A good example of that for me, something I've never gone through and never will go through, is menopause. I've dealt with a lot of women that are going through menopause or have gone through menopause. So as soon as they come in, I'm already like lowering the AC, I'm turning fans on, I'm making sure they're comfortable. And you have to really listen to them. I think the underlying theme of this whole thing is listen to people, learn from them, and then use that to adapt to other people in the same situation. So now I get somebody coming to me that has menopause or going through menopause, and I can tell them, all right, we've been here before. I know some days you're going to be very uncomfortable. I'm going to try to like accommodate you as much as possible, make it cold in here, make sure you're not doing anything uncomfortable, things of that nature.
That's a great point, and it just goes to show that you don't necessarily, because a lot of times people, they try to look for a coach or a trainer or someone to work with that's like kind of like them.
Yeah.
Like, oh, so let me get a lady who's like menopausal age. And it's like, not necessarily. As long as your trainer has experience with that demographic or your circumstances, you can find really good qualified coaches that you would never think, like, this, young guy has experience with,
menopause.
something that, yeah.
Why do they call it menopause?
The men even have to have that. Another prevalent example in the fitness industry is a lot of coaches work with like physique competitors and bodybuilders. They're getting people ready for a competition. And that seems to be like, oh, like I'm a really good coach because I get people ready for like the ultimate physique.
Yeah.
You're gonna step on a stage. If you're a coach that works with strictly or mostly people like that, I would say that if you're like somebody who's not looking to be a physique competitor, just a regular person, like, you should consider whether you want to work with a coach like that, because a lot of them are set in their ways in the sense of like they expect you to eat out of Tupperware, meal prep every Sunday, dedicate a ton of time to your fitness and your fitness journey. And it's like a lot of people, look, we work with like regular everyday people. They just don't have time for that. They don't have time. So you have to be a lot more flexible with the way that we coach, because hey, I know you don't have 6 hours a week to strength train. I know you're not going to be sleeping 8 to 9 hours. I know you have kids, I know you have a job. So what I would say is be careful if you're looking for a coach and you think that you're gonna work with, this guy who trains Mr. Olympia. It's like, yeah, I'm sure that guy's a great coach, but he's used to working with competitors, not regular people.
Same with people who train athletes. It's like you expect them to be there at 6 a.m., you expect them to do 2 a days. Like, regular people don't have that kind of time, energy, and half the time, let's be honest, you don't really want to even do that. People are looking to do their hour a day, get on with their day, and that's it. So it's two completely different populations, and I feel like you said, reconsider if you want to, like, yeah, I'm sure they're good coaches for that specific niche.
Yeah, another example, you suffer from chronic back pain. Look for a coach that has dealt with people who have back pain, and that's where it's your responsibility as a consumer to do your research, to do your due diligence, because when you're looking up coaches, what if they've never dealt with somebody with low back pain? They're just going to figure it out. On the other hand, there's a lot of coaches that they specifically deal with people with low back pain or knee pain or whatever it might be, or at least in the past have dealt with it. I love when we get calls and they're like, oh, I'm in, my issue is that I have XYZ, and I'm like, I put their insecurities or anxieties at ease, and I say, we've worked with
20
a
people,
ton of people in your situation, and you give them peace of mind that I can help you. I have the skills and the knowledge and the experience to help you with your specific thing.
I had something else to say and I forgot. Let's say you just got out of school and you think you know everything. They tell you, oh, these are the fundamental lifts. You got to deadlift, you got to squat, you got to do this. But deadlift hurts this person's back. Like, you're not prepared to handle that. Whereas somebody that like knows you don't have to deadlift with everybody. Not every movement is for everybody. Mm-hmm. These little things you just pick up over time. I don't think anybody just realizes that right off the bat.
For sure. And I mean, I'm guilty of that. When I was fresh out of school, like, I thought I knew a lot, and I tried to like kind of fit everybody into this box because I knew it was like the quote unquote right thing, like the science says, and very evidence based. But the real world is a little bit more messy. You have to be a lot more flexible.
There's a lot more gray area.
Yep, for sure. Another thing is, like we said earlier, people are very different, right? So perfect example is my wife and I. My wife is the type that she can have one cookie for dessert. I am the type that
Gonna have 17.
I'm not gonna have one. I guarantee you, I'm not gonna have just one. I'm a lot more of an anxious eater, a stress eater, and again, if you're dealing with a client who is a stress eater or binges when they're going through something, then that's a very specific situation that you have to know how to deal with and have the tools to deal with. Again, telling that person, just don't eat dessert. Like, why can't? And we hear that all the time from clients that are, not as sensitive to the topic. They're like, I don't understand. I can have ice cream in my fridge and I'll just take a bite and that's all I need.
Yeah,
and it's
great
like,
for you.
yeah, but a lot of people cannot just take a bite. They're gonna eat the whole thing. So you have to understand that there are people like that. You have to dig into your clients, like why or what's happening there, and then you have to have the tools to first be empathetic to that, and then okay, maybe here's how we're gonna deal with it in your situation, because clearly I'm not gonna just tell you just don't have ice cream, just don't buy anything. It's too binary. It doesn't help at all.
Another thing that's similar to that is the personality types. Like you have some clients, you can tell them straight up, you're gonna train with me Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You're gonna do your cardio on Tuesday, and I'll see you again on Monday. I'm like, okay, perfect. You tell that to them once, that's it. Then there's some people you gotta text Wednesday, hey, are we good? Friday, hey, you're good. You just gotta navigate different people differently, and I think a lot of people don't see that.
Yeah, some people need a lot more accountability, more constant engagement.
Yeah.
And even on the training floor itself, you have to kind of adapt as a trainer, because some people respond very well to a more negative reinforcement, and then other people you have to encourage like crazy. So again, that all comes with being experienced as a coach.
Definitely. Before we close here, we're just curious and we want to ask you guys, if you've ever been in a situation like this, or someone you don't have to out the trainer, please don't. But if you've been in this situation, or you know somebody that's gone through something like this, share it in the comments, because we really want to know, and we want to help you guys and maybe find somebody that's a little more empathetic to your situation.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be a trainer. This happens all the time with loved ones or friends, where they just don't understand your situation at all. So anything that popped up during this conversation, it'd be great to hear your story if you're willing to share, of course.
Like pineapple on pizza.
Love it.
Hate it. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's pretty good. I like it. I
don't really care for it. One piece of good news is that the fitness industry has shifted a lot over the years in a good way.
Yep.
In the sense that there's a lot more coaches that are very empathetic now and a lot more in tune with this kind of topics.
And they preach balance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it used to be quite toxic. Like back in the day when I got started, it was very do it this way or don't do it at all, go hard or go home, that whole thing. Now I follow a lot of coaches that are way even ahead of the curve of even where we're at. And it's a style that allows you to create positive habits and be healthier, but without the shaming, the guilt, the feeling bad about yourself, the resentment, I have to exercise because I ate a cookie last night and I just outwork my bad diet. So there is a way, and we are heading in the right direction. But of course, like we said, there are still very, accounts that make it to really big status and people that gain a lot of followers who are still stuck in that old toxic way.
And sadly, we live in Miami, and that's probably one of the most toxic cities.
Sadly, we live in Miami.
I mean, sadly the weather's beautiful, but situations like this is horrible. I have a very specific name in my head. I don't know if you know who I want to mention. My name. There's some people that just, it's all aesthetics and it's all
I don't know.
Just
cough it. Okay. That's what I was thinking about. I didn't know it was that person was big enough.
No, he's not big, but it's that's
it's the stupidity.
The epitome of, I train, you have to train like a beast all the time, and look like me, and if you're not jacked, you're not a trainer. That's not like.
And then there's also the you get this a lot in Miami, which is the people that their whole reason for exercising is to look a certain way. So if you can achieve the looking a certain way without exercising, they literally think, why the hell would I exercise?
Oh, yeah.
I used to hear that at the old gym I used to work out, where women would tell each other, it was an all-women's gym, you're skinny, why do you work out? And I'd be like,
for your health.
So you're absolutely right, and it's very popular here to get surgeries and go to another country and do half your body. And whatever, you want to do that, that's cool. We're not judging, but exercise is so much bigger than that. We all know that by now. It literally makes your life better in every way possible. It helps with longevity, helps with your health, quality of
Happiness,
life,
everything,
happiness, mood.
everything.
So it's like there's a million and one reasons to work out that have nothing to do with how
With
you
your
look.
BBL.
So, so yeah, that was a good point. I wish we would have talked about Miami more, but we're a very
Part
specific
in the city
demographic.
where the heat is on. Fuck, it's on. Oh yeah, I forgot I can't curse. How fast can you do this?
Not very fast.
Let me see. Well, that's a clip.
Okay.
Not very fast.
As if I've tried before and I can tell you.
I used to eat a lot of pudding growing up without a spoon, so.
Did you?
Yeah, they called me snack pack in high school.
They called you?
So I'm just kidding.
Holy
They called you?
All
They
right.
called me Mr. Softy.
Referencing back to the old podcast. Everybody, back when I called him
Mr.
to our
Softy.
old. Okay. All right. So, big takeaway from here. You might be the person that's being insensitive to someone. So, what I would say is, don't be so quick to judge somebody else's situation. Like, take the time to sit and just think for a second. Like, what if I was in that person's shoes? What's it like to be in that person's shoes? Ask questions and try to really understand what the other person is going through before giving your opinion or your advice or whatever.
And that's something that I do here all the time. It's like, I see somebody come in a little tired. I'm like, I'm not going to force you to do the heaviest weight possible. We'll talk about it. I was like, you're good today? Like, is today a strong day? Like, every day doesn't have to be super intense. Like, yeah, you're their trainer, but you also have to be understanding. So I think that's what we're trying to get to today is find a trainer that understands you and is trying to help you elevate yourself without necessarily shitting on you or without being insensitive to your situation.
Yeah, and I will say we have I'm very proud of the team we've built because they're all very good at that. No matter which one of the 7 trainers you get, that's one thing that's like a strong suit. And maybe it's a part of the culture we've created, but I think it's their personality too.
I think
we just picked specific trainers for that.
I think so. And with that,
Come train with us! Woo! Miami! Woo! Shot.
can we Triple H just end it together?
That's a mess.
Just very little bit.
Like,
No, in the air.
fuck. That's the worst idea ever. You did a big one, dude. That was not little at all.